I get it.
The only problem is I sweat disgustingly. Like, my face gets so bad. But it's okay. It's going to dry up during the podcast. I'm very sure.
It just looks like a nice sheen.
Yeah, a nice sheen, right?
Yeah.
But then like at the end of the podcast, I'll be looking a little musty.
I get it. Oh, fuck, I get it.
All right, Pat, you ready to just hop into this?
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ayoo Chill podcast. You already know the business. This is Jersey's podcast. This is the first time an episode I have said that, but we are New Jersey's podcast and we're coming back to you live. You already know the business. I have another guest for you. My friend, please take a couple of seconds, minutes, let the people know who you are and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Kendyle Paige. I am a singer, songwriter, soon to be mom.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I'm from New York.
So specifically though, what town?
So I grew up in a very small town called Circleville, New York.
Mm-hmm.
But everything I've ever done in my life has been in Middletown, New York. So I rep both.
So, but did you like primarily like, is your childhood like to what age? Because I feel like at a certain age when you're a kid, you don't like leave like your town.
Yes.
So like to what age were you like stuck? Like,
so my parents were very, very much into like making sure that we didn't move around when we were kids. Mm-hmm. So I actually lived in the same house from when I was born to the time I turned 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very nice. Very nice. So specifically to Circleville, I was actually doing some research.
Okay.
So I know, did you play any sports when you were little?
So I played on a softball team that my dad coached. Mm-hmm. I was not good. But I did dance growing up. That was my like sport of choice. Yeah.
And so was there a dance school in Circleville or was it outside?
It was outside. It was in Chester, New York.
And how far is that from Circleville?
My mom drove us 6 days a week, 20 minutes away.
That's not too bad.
No, it wasn't. She just ended up, we danced competitively, so she would literally sit in a parking lot for 3 hours every night while we practiced and did all of that.
So was dancing like your first intro into like the world of art?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I started somewhere around 4th grade and then moved into, doing every kind of genre I could in dance, from ballet all the way to hip hop. I danced competitively in hip hop, which is like super embarrassing now because I look back at the videos and I'm like, this was so cringy.
You know what? Probably during like the time period.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think like you're probably dancing to like Crank That Soldier Boy.
Exactly.
It's funny. I low key know because my sister was actually also like a hip hop dancer.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, she loved dance from a young age. I could not dance. I could dance like Latino, like, salsa, bachata, and stuff like that. But like I can't do hip hop.
Oh my gosh.
I want to get into it low key now.
Right?
But the problem is that like I feel like there's a certain age like after you getting to like adulthood where like you have a awkward phase.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like if I put enough time into it, like
you could get good.
Yeah.
For sure.
But like I don't want to go through that year.
For that first stage. It's the first stage of learning anything new. You suck so bad. Mm-hmm. And you have to, I love that saying though, like what is it? You have to, something about the mountain of cringy to get to the other side of like being good at something. You have to climb the mountain of cringe.
Yeah, I think.
And be cringy at something.
Yeah, this is actually a topic that has come up so many times on the podcast. Yeah. Where I tell people, especially in this age of like social media and stuff, like
yes,
once you're established, once you kind of know yourself, it's easier to put stuff out and not feel bad about it. Mm-hmm. But even like, I think the podcast was at like 100 followers like 2 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And all my memories started coming up from like around this time of like when we started and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm looking back at some of those videos and I'm like,
why did I do that?
Yeah, like I'm just like, dude, why'd you post that up? And sometimes I'm like, I want to take it down, but like
I get it.
I try to keep as much things up as possible.
Of course.
As possible. But because I want people to be able to see that journey and not that like everything was just perfect at one point, or like
Exactly.
they're not seeing like everything that's like
The come up.
yeah, the come up, exactly.
Absolutely.
So you actually were really good at dancing though. Like you won a national championship, no?
I did. I won a national championship. It was with a group of girls. I forget what we were. We were robots. We were fembots, and we did something to "Run the World" by Beyonce.
That sounds fun.
It was dope.
Did you have the hip hop face down?
I felt like at the time I was, when you're a teenager and everything is so embarrassing to you.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to go really quick. It's a universal experience. Some people, like theater kids, have a way of getting past that very early on in life. Mm-hmm. I did theater as a kid, but that was my biggest fallback, was that I cared too much about what other people thought of me. And even when I danced competitively and knew that I was good, I could not get past that, like, that stage in my brain where I was like, oh my God, I'm so fucking cringy. Even though, I wasn't that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Looking back
totally.
now, I'm like, girl, what the hell? Like, you were fine.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
I wasn't A1, don't get me wrong, but it was, I could have gone, I probably would have been better had I not given a shit, if that makes sense.
No, I totally get that. And it's hard, like, especially when you're like a kid,
Yes.
and when you start becoming a little self-aware.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I almost wish like that never existed up until like later.
Yes, same.
But I do have to touch on something you just said. Mm-hmm. You said theater kid.
Yes.
And I, myself,
Was a theater kid?
was a theater kid.
Yeah.
For sure, 100%. Do you remember what shows you did?
So I did All Shook Up.
I love All Shook Up.
Yes, that was my first intro into high school theater. So that was my sophomore, junior year.
Did you play like a main role or just
And
background?
I was an extra because I tanked my audition every time.
Rough.
Really bad. And I had been, so I was like 16 or 17 auditioning for this. But I had been auditioning for singing TV shows since I was 13. So I thought it was literally going to be the same thing. But I went to audition my sophomore year in high school. And that year they were doing the show Cats. And I was not prepared. I was not prepared.
In high school, they were doing Cats?
They were doing fucking.
Dude, that's bold. That is bold.
I did not know what I was getting myself into. I show up to this audition. I have a bunch of older brothers, so they like prepared me for this audition. Mm-hmm. I picked a song from Les Mis to audition with. Horrible choice.
Do you remember which one from Les Mis?
I don't. I'm sure it was the only one that it possibly could be, and I'm blanking on it because my brain's mush right now.
You know what? I'm also blanking on it. For some reason, in my head, it's On My Own, but I know
it is On My Own.
Is it On My Own?
Yes.
On My Own?
That's what it is.
Oh my God.
That's definitely it. And I don't know why my brothers picked that song for me, but they thought I'd do it well. I show up to the audition. I sing it. I forget half my words. And we get into like the acting portion of the audition where I have to act like a cat.
This is the problem with the whole show.
I was so mortified. I am telling you, I could not. Just the kids around me, like hissing at each other, like actually acting like a cat.
I know.
I just remember I left mid that. Could not do it. Like I maybe meowed and was like, get me out of here. I cannot function.
I know. I don't know how. I had this girl in my high school.
Yeah.
Who was obsessed with cats.
With cats?
Obsessed with cats.
Oh, God.
And on Halloween every year throughout 4 years of high school, she wasn't even just a cat. Like, she went OD with it. She was a different cat from the show every year, and she would go all out.
Oh, my God.
But the thing is like, in high school, like, not everybody's, like, really, like, like, no one's...
Accepting.
Yeah, not even just accepting, but, like, I feel like everybody's costume in high school was like mediocre, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I want to be like a zombie or something. You'd be like, oh, okay. But this girl's was so good,
Oh shit.
but it was so good that it was awkward.
Yeah.
Because it was like, imagine
Because
being in full
everybody
makeup.
else is-
Yeah. And just being in Algebra 1.
That's so true. It's so true.
You're literally a cat.
You're like, I am a little freaked out that you just answered a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but like in that,
right? It was really something else. But I loved theater. I felt like it really helped me. Like,
Oh, yeah.
especially like going through everything. Was that all the things you remember? So you said All Shook Up, Cats.
and then my senior year we did Drowsy Chaperone.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, and I was Janet.
Yes.
I have no idea how I pulled that off.
Oh my god! And was that great?
It was amazing. My best friend was the chaperone at the time, so we had this like ideal setup, and we just absolutely killed it. Looking back now, I'm like, oh, you could have done that so much better. But at the time, it was like you said, it helps you so much, just like turn into this other character, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to take it too seriously. You don't have to do anything crazy. It was like the show was perfect because it was just like this show woman, you know what I mean? I didn't have to be an animal or anything like that. It was between that and Tarzan. That was the two shows that they were deciding between. And I was like, I do not want to be a monkey. It would not.
Well, technically, there's still a lot of monkeys in Drowsy Chaperones.
Yes, there are.
Low-key,
there
you
are.
couldn't avoid it.
It's true. It was like a lot of monkey or a little bit, but it was a great show. And yeah, we just.
Can you guess my dream role in Drowsy Chaperone? I feel like it's kind of easy.
Is it Robert?
No.
Oh, is it Adolfo?
Adolfo? When I saw Adolfo for the first time, I was
Yes.
like, this is my spirit animal.
Yes.
Like, this is my spirit animal. And
my
I'm sure that you have heard the name Adolfo. Like, I know the whole thing backwards and forwards. Like, I love that part. I thought about it all the time.
No.
I love that show. I love that show so much.
I love that.
Yeah, I never got to be in it. I remember I didn't get into theater until like my last 2 years of high school.
Oh, yeah. Literally same.
Because I was convinced that I was going to be a shot put superstar. And it was not for me. It was not for me. So,
Oh, my God.
yeah. Then I got into theater, and then I was in Elf Jr.
Love
I played
that.
Santa.
Oh, my God.
And kids are wild, and I can only imagine how wild they are today, because I feel like when I was Santa, like kids were not that they were just having phones, but they were starting to get like more smart.
Yes.
So like there were some kids there who just like, I know you're not Santa, and I'd just be like, oh, shut up.
Like actually in Elf, where he's
Yeah.
like, bro, shut up. What does he say?
Who?
In Elf?
In Elf, the Santa.
No, when he's like, oh, you're not Santa. You're a mean elf or something like that. What does he
I
say?
completely forget, because honestly, when I was Santa, like I
Yes.
just played Santa. It was such
That was it.
Yeah, that was it, because our Elf Junior was a student run show.
Oh.
So the students, like they had students who wanted to be like future directors or whatever.
Got it.
And like I didn't want to listen to anybody, so I
Yeah,
was just
no.
like, I'm just gonna learn my part, be like the big jolly guy,
Let
and
me
just
rock.
do what I gotta do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I did that. We did Wizard of Oz.
Nice.
And I was Oz.
No
the
way.
The most Latino Oz you've ever seen in your life.
Fire.
But I was Oz. Oh my god. Legally Blonde.
I love that show.
And I was Callahan. I was Callahan in that.
Fire.
So I was that. That was cool, except for getting slapped in the face on stage. That wasn't fun.
Yeah.
But I did get to kiss like my crush at the time, so that was cool.
Oh my God.
I remember that being a big deal. For
Oh,
me in
yeah.
high school. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, theater
Yes.
kisses are where it's at. And also,
Facts.
I think me and you know, like theater kids are like some of the most like.
I just had this conversation recently, actually, because all of the theater kid parties were at my house. So
Stop.
yeah,
You were the theater house?
I was the theater house.
Yo.
I was the house for everybody else as well, but we had a bunch of theater kid parties, and they called them Wolvenocracies because that's my last name and some sort of drunken night. But yeah, theater kids were crazy.
Yeah, we don't have to get to
Nope. No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we do not.
because I remember my theater parties and yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm sorry to my family.
It's so true. It's like, if only our parents knew.
I feel like I played in one more show that I'm forgetting to say. Oh, Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Oh shit.
Do you know that show?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I played the comfort counselor. So,
love that.
Yeah, and that was just great. But
Yes.
I also low-key feel like nothing against my high school or anything, but like I feel like I was like the only minority. So,
You were typecasted?
Yeah, I think I was typecasted.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was also like that was actually my first theater show.
Wow.
That was my first one. And they were just like, yeah, just put him there. And I was like,
This is predictable.
yeah, okay, it's cool.
All right, I'm going to let you rock.
Yeah, but that's where also like I first learned to sing and everything too. So that was
Yes.
really cool and everything. So why don't we hop in a little bit because we're
Sure,
getting into
sure.
like the early parts of your
Yes.
life and everything. We're
Absolutely.
bumping to a lot of places. I know this is like in almost every interview I watched of you, every video, when
Mm-hmm.
people say like, "Oh, like, can you tell us about your family?" Your reaction has always been, "That's a loaded question."
It is. Oh my God.
So why don't we start telling me like just a little bit like about your immediate family?
Sure. So even the immediate part is a loaded question. So both my biological parents are together. They are with each other. They are amazing. They are like my very best friends. They were both previously married before getting back together. And they had children in those previous marriages, so I have a bunch of half siblings. And then on top of them having children previously and then 3 children together, they raised a bunch of kids that weren't really theirs. I wouldn't call it fostering, but anybody we brought home that didn't really have a great home life either ended up living with us at some point and or basically living with us. So growing up, my half brother is 12 years older than me. So, I mean, by the time he was 18, he moved out of the house. I knew him as my brother, but my sister, who's 4 years younger than me, did not, and was like, who's this guy that's always in our house, like just eating our food, like just thought he was a cousin or something, because we're also Puerto Rican, so it's like there's a lot of us. And
Why did I not know you were Puerto Rican?
I don't share it a lot because I don't know how to speak Spanish, and
It's cool. It's cool. Yo,
I've been shamed for that before.
You're Boricua and proud, all right?
I
recognize
appreciate
you,
it.
yo.
Thank
I
you.
recognize Don't
Thank
even worry
you.
about that.
And in LA, it was very different. Any interview I did where I mentioned being Puerto Rican, they would ask do you speak Spanish immediately after? And once I said no, they were like, all right, we're going to cut that from the interview.
That's so mean,
It was so strange.
Listen, it's tough. Spanish is tough. And
Yeah.
do your parents speak like?
So my mom understands it, but does not speak it. My grandmother and grandfather are both Puerto Rican and speak it fluently and were made fun of when they came to America, so decided not to teach their children.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's
Yeah.
a lot of that going on, and even today.
Oh,
even
absolutely.
Today, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
It's really tough. So, but honestly, it's never too late because
I know.
Duolingo,
Duolingo slaps.
if you just a couple minutes a day,
Yeah.
you'll start recognizing it.
I mean, small phrases I get. It's conjugating is where it's really tough for me. And the Spanish I was learning in school, my grandmother was like, they are teaching you white people Spanish, and I cannot relate and or have a conversation with you right now. And I'm like, shit, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, that's why people from the islands are. It's tough because like if the Spanish in school is kind of, it's kind of like white Spanish, but it's also like it's just very proper. Right?
Yes.
And especially around like Central America and the islands, it is very far from that.
Yes.
Very far from that.
Because there's so much slang involved, like in English. So I can't imagine. I mean, my grandmother learned English, and it's still a little broken, but like you can understand her and have a conversation with her. When I would try and speak Spanish with her, it was like so hard for her to get it. And she was like, this is just so juvenile, so short, so whatever. She really wants us to. Like, she really encourages it. I think she bought us, like, what's the one that people used to get the program? Rosetta Stone. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yes. She got that for us for Christmas one year. It was just like, she's trying real hard.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to. I just feel like at this point in my life, my brain will not allow me to. At least in a significant way. But I would love to learn.
I think the biggest thing is always like something to practice with.
Yeah.
Or like a TV show that you could watch.
Yes.
Like if I had to suggest anything for you, there's a TV show on Netflix called Who Killed Sarah.
Okay.
And it's all in Spanish. It's
Love
perfect
that.
because it's like very telenovela-y.
I
but
love
like also
telenovela.
like it's like telenovela but mixed in with like Netflix show.
Yes.
So it's like not so like dramatic like
Yeah.
telenovela, but like
It's more
the tea in
cinematic.
there is like very juicy. So
Hell
it's like, you know, because the whole
yeah.
show is like Who Killed Sarah. Like,
Yes.
You know, so
Oh,
but
I
it's
love that.
It's very good. There's also another one called Bank Heist.
Okay.
Which takes place in Spain.
Okay.
And those are two very good shows. If you ask any Latino who like watches Netflix, they're gonna tell you those two shows.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
but always like those shows because I actually recently got Rosetta Stone because I love
You
learning,
did?
Yeah, I love learning different languages a lot. So
If you're good at it, it's like, I feel like once you learn your first language, it's very easy to apply the same math to others.
Yeah, and basically like for me it's always just been about the people in practice. Like for
Yes.
example, I had an ex who was Turkish.
Ooh.
And her family didn't really accept me like being like her boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna impress them. So I learned how to read Turkish, but like I knew how to pronounce everything. I just didn't understand everything.
Wow.
But once I knew like what all like the letters did and what all like the special letters did, I was like, all right, this is cake. And there's still like certain things I remember, like Ban Turkceye konuşamıyorum means I don't speak Turkish well.
Yes.
Sen çok güzelsin means you're very beautiful in Turkish.
Love that.
And then like little things like animals and how to count to 10 and stuff.
Yes,
But that's
the
basically where it
basics.
stops. That's
Yeah.
basically where it stops. But like whenever I speak to Turkish people, as soon as I tell them like the first two, they're just like, oh my God.
I
And then-
respect you.
Right. And then I was trying to learn Polish.
Ooh.
Because I'm actually, I don't know what you call it.
23andMe?
No, I didn't get 23andMe. I was gonna say I got when you become like a reverend, when you officiate weddings and stuff.
Oh,
I forget what it's called.
Officiant?
Officiate, yeah. I got
You got
officiated.
ordained?
Ordained, yes.
got it?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I got ordained, and my
Fire.
friends who I'm gonna like do their wedding, they're Polish.
Wow.
So I wanted to learn some Polish to do maybe a part of the wedding in Polish.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna happen.
hard.
I don't know if it's gonna happen because it's very hard. It is very hard because they're like completely like whole different kind of like Slavic syllables are very like wild.
Yeah.
And I think my problem is too is like the same advice I gave to you. Like I've been trying to look for like shows that like are in Polish.
Yeah, smart.
And, like, I practice with them, but they don't practice with me like in full like sentences.
Yeah.
So it's very hard.
I get that.
So sometimes I wish they would just like all speak Polish around me and not give me anything. So it just forced me to be like, all right, now I'm gonna really learn.
Yes. That's so fun though.
Yeah, no, it really is. So, and you never know if you need any books for the future.
Yes.
For the future baby.
Yeah.
I have some books at home that like as soon as like, you know, my niece is getting a little older, like I'll be more than happy to hand some of those over to you because they actually have baby books that are in Spanish.
Awesome.
And they don't sell a lot of those here in the United States.
It's very strange. I've also noticed that. So my husband's family is from France. His mom moved to the States when she was like 22.
Wow.
Yeah, his parents met in France, like in a bar, and ended up getting married very quickly, moving to the States. Like it's amazing love story. So my baby's grandmother is going to speak French to her. And then on my side, Spanish. My grandmother only wants to speak to her in Spanish and like start that very young. So it's hopefully she'll just be a trilingual queen.
Honestly, I believe it because
Yeah.
I think like the trilingual thing is like gonna start popping off in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Because in some other countries, it's already very like common.
It's so common to know so many different languages because, like I said, once you learn one, it's so easy to apply that math to the same language.
Yeah. We got a little sidetracked.
We did. Jesus.
But that was also kind of my fault. There's no problem. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. We were talking about your parents, and we were talking about
my family. So gosh, I don't even know where I left off. So
I think we left off at you talking about your mom. You left off talking about your cousin and your sister being like, who is this guy who's just coming into our house eating our food?
Yes. So my baby sister is 4 years younger than me. And then I have another sister, Natalie, who's in the middle of us. She's 1 year younger than me. And that's like, they're my two only full blood siblings, but we've never really counted that. Like my oldest brother, I never really viewed him as half. I don't even think I found out that he was half until way later on in my life. He also has a half brother that I grew up with on the other side, if that makes sense. And they both are born on the same day, 2 years apart, and they have the same name.
That is beautiful.
Which is just like crazy. Their names are Tioka, and that's a family name on their dad's side. And I'm due, their birthday's May 18th. I'm due June 2nd. May 18th is only like 2 weeks before that. Mm-hmm. So now everyone in my family thinks I'm going to be having this baby on May 18th.
It could be.
Her name's not going to be Tioka, I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's really hard to explain who's my siblings, who's not, because when I'm with them, I'm like, these are my brothers and sisters. Like that's pretty much it. But my grandfather was also married 3 times in his lifetime and had children with all of those wives. Mm-hmm. And we're very close with all of them. So my mom's like one of 11, and we all just remain very, very close. So it's just this big melting pot of humans and what I would consider my immediate family. Mm-hmm. And then that's like the short of it.
No, that's cool. That's actually so beautiful though, because I feel like, some people might be like, oh my God, like that's so weird. Like
it's
how
crazy.
You guys all feel, like how you guys like all close and everything. But I don't know, like to me, like family's family.
Family's family. That's how we've always seen it. Especially if you're as welcoming and loving of us, like we welcome and love you. And that's just it. It
sounded like you had a very like warm and loving household. So
yeah, I mean, we're crazy, but
well, from the parties I've heard so far, I mean, like it's actually so funny when we first walked into your listening party and everything.
Yeah.
Like I had heard something, I think that like Shane had mentioned to me, because like I like I'm always trying to be chill vibes, you know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes like even like if I'm doing something in a setting, I'm just like I'm trying to be professional, like
I
to
get
a certain extent, right?
Of course.
But then like I forget, you had said something, and then it was like something like, oh guys, just like get wasted, like like do what you want, because like like I just want everybody to enjoy themselves because I can. And I was just like, that's a vibe. Like that's I might take you up on that. I'm like, let me take these pictures first and like make sure I could hold the camera, and then maybe like I'll go ahead and like really, really get down. So.
Oh my God. Yeah. That has always been my vibe. I sometimes to a fault, but honestly, it's like if everybody else around me is enjoying themselves, I feel like I can also enjoy myself and chill and relax. And just because I'm pregnant and can't drink or smoke, I want my friends to be able to like get into the headspace they want to be in when they listen to an album from their favorite artists, from anyone. Like I want them to feel just as chill as possible. So that's why I brought booze and was just everybody Do your thing.
The big mason jar, like the was a good call.
Yes.
Was a great call.
I bring that thing everywhere. Jungle juice everywhere.
Was a great call. We'll get into your album in a few.
Yes,
but
yes.
I kind of want to move into a little bit. So we talked a little bit about your upbringing. We'll hop back into that in and out.
Yeah.
What I really want to talk about getting into now is kind of like your journey, probably when you first started realizing that you wanted to take music seriously.
Yes. So I would say like 2006, the movie Dreamgirls came out. And my mom was obsessed with it immediately. I think I was in 4th or 5th grade at the time. And the song, my mom specifically was obsessed with the song Listen by Beyonce, which is performed in that movie. And would listen. I'm telling you, she would watch this movie. We had the DirecTV going where she recorded it, and then we played it all the time. And so I would just hear the song over and over again. I'm humming it in the kitchen, I think, one day, and my mom's like, "Girl, you can sing. You're good." And I am not taking her seriously because she's my mom and I love her, but anything I wanted to do, she was 1,000% in. Let's get you into this. Let's support you. And so she would call me into the living room after school every day from that moment and have me sing this song, Listen by Beyonce. And I was horrible at it because it's Beyonce. And
yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
it was especially that song. And I was so shy, so I would face a wall that nobody could see my facial expressions and just sing it as much as I could. And as soon as I started getting a little better at it, she would have family members, anytime anybody would come over, "You have to hear Kendyle sing this song." I'd face the wall, I'd sing the song, and I loved it, but I didn't let her know that. And my brothers were in a band growing up. So I grew up watching them perform on shows and tour and do all this crazy things. Their bass player plays with Coheed now.
Wow.
It's just, their story really motivated me to be like, okay, I can write songs and do these things. And then I started getting into choir in school and just doing small things like that. Nothing crazy. I wasn't really writing original stuff or anything like that yet. But then I was dancing, and my dance school at the time had a voice and drama section where we would do shows, and that's kind of where I learned like technical things, how to warm up, things like that. And where am I at? Middle school, did talent shows, would sing and dance at them. And then high school is where, at that point, I pretty much knew that like singing was my identity. That was the group I wanted to be in. That was what I wanted to do. I think at the time I wanted to maybe do theater, and I thought that was the only avenue I could take because nobody in my family thought nobody really knew, like we have a Grammy in our family from
Your uncle.
My uncle, yeah. So Dave Valentine, he's an amazing flute player, Latin flute player, and he won a Latin Grammy in 2003. And he would come around on Christmas and perform for us, and he never really helped me get into the industry or anything like that, but he always shared a lot of wisdom, which was great.
It's always important.
Yeah.
Especially there's so many things I feel like when you're growing up, especially like in music,
Yes.
like where certain things just click,
Oh, yeah.
Especially from people like that.
Absolutely. Sure. And at the time, I didn't know it was wisdom, or I just assumed he was telling a crazy story about how him and my grandfather were at Whitney Houston's release party, or, just crazy things that now I want to pick his brain and talk to him and be like, tell me everything. Like, you were at where and doing drugs with who, and but he unfortunately passed away from a stroke a couple years ago.
I'm so sorry for that.
But he lived an amazing life, so I don't think he had any regrets. And I think I'm all over the place. So sorry.
No, it's so good.
But yeah, I think growing up in that kind of setting where my family had an appreciation of music but didn't really know how to get somebody who wanted to pursue music into that avenue, I kind of had to figure it out myself. I'd watch a shit ton of YouTube videos on basically how to break into the industry, how to write your own music, how to do all these things. And in high school is basically where I just found people that played instruments, all these different kinds of things, and was like, can you play for me? That's where I met my guitarist, Javel. And he's an artist himself now. He writes and taught me basically everything he knows. And I started just playing gigs anywhere I could get them around my senior year, I think. Timeline's a little fuzzy at this point, but
do you remember like what places you first started like performing at?
I mean, originally I would say it was like burger joints and cafes, just local places.
And how was that experience of like first, like how would you first get a gig?
So I annoyed probably the crap out of everybody in my town. But I was never the type of person who in person I would advocate for myself. It was always behind my computer. I would type out like 300 different emails a week, I'm talking. And I would be at my job. This was my senior year. I worked in a music store. Perfect. It was awesome. My whole family happened to work there, so that's the only reason I got the job. And I'd be at the front desk, and I'd be helping customers, and I learned how to check them out as efficiently and as fast as possible so that I could get back to writing emails.
Wow.
And play gigs on the weekends and do whatever I could. And I mean, before that, in middle school, I had started auditioning for shows like The Voice and those kinds of auditions. Very different than how they're portrayed on TV. You basically go to these cattle call auditions of like millions of people, and they pick you out of a crowd if they just happen to be in a good mood and you sound good. And I would do that twice a year from the time I was 13 to the time I actually got on a show, which was, I think I was 19. And I never ever made it. It was always like, they have 4 rounds before you actually hit TV. And I would get through every round, and then that last round before you go to TV, they'd be like, nope, just not ready for TV yet. And that really helped me, because when you get told no so many times, it didn't faze me at that point. By the time I was gigging and playing at these coffee shops with Javel, I didn't give a shit if anybody was listening. I didn't care if there were 2 people in the freaking coffee shop. I just knew from my Googling that this was considered paying my dues and getting practice for future.
So before we get into your whole saga with TV and everything, I did have one quick question about when you were first getting gigs, because I know that a lot of people who listen to the podcast are musicians and people who are also trying to quote unquote make it, and indie artists and everything. Do you remember your first paid gig and like how much like you asked for, if they offered anything?
Yeah. I actually think it was a burger joint. And I think they paid me $40 for like an hour and a half set.
What year would this be?
I graduated high school in 2015, so 2015, 2016.
Okay, because in my mind, I'm trying to calculate how disrespectful $40 is.
It's so disrespectful. Now I would never, but
And were you alone, or did you have to split the $40?
I would have to split that with Joelle.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so 20.
So yeah,
so
so 20.
So 20, okay.
And I didn't care. Most of my gigs I played for free.
Yeah.
I did. And I would recommend anybody starting out to do that.
Yeah.
You got to play for free for a little bit. And if it's what you want to do and it's not your means of income at that time, just do it. Any free time that you have, spend paying your dues. It's just what it's called. And I don't mean play a 4-hour gig and let somebody do something disrespectful. That was the one thing I never did. A lot of like wineries would reach out to me and be like, play for 4 hours and we'll pay you $100. I don't have 4 hours of material. My voice isn't going to last for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Yeah, they don't understand that.
No, but that's because, especially in the area I grew up in, the Hudson Valley, there were a lot of like dad rock, hippie bands. I don't really know how to explain them, that would specifically go out to play these wineries and play for 4 hours.
Because they don't get tired of playing the Beatles.
No, nobody gets tired of listening Come Together.
Yeah.
How many times? I don't even know 4 hours worth of music that I could sing, you know? So I wouldn't recommend doing that. But if it's an hour gig at a coffee shop, there's a bill of a bunch of other artists, that's a way for you to get your name heard, a way for other people to hear you and ask you to play for other gigs, and then it gets better from there.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. There's always like a certain balance, especially when you're starting out, like you said, to do it, to get that practice in, because, you know, I think with a lot of performers, and especially like I go to all these hip hop shows and all these indie events in New Jersey, and I really love it. But like always the biggest thing, I'm like, okay, some of your songs, like they could be great and they're great listening to, but I feel like a lot of artists don't think about like, okay, like how is this going to translate on stage, you know?
Exactly.
And like how is this transition going to work? Like a lot of people are just hitting next on like whatever is on their like, you know, playlist.
Yes.
And it's like sometimes there needs to be a transition because that energy needs to come, and if the energy is gonna go lower,
yes,
you gotta set up for that.
You need. And I'm sure I acted this way as an upcoming artist, but now having the experience, I can say anybody playing these shows, no matter how small they are, talk to your audience. If there's one thing that I have noticed going to house shows recently, is that exactly what you said. They're just there to play their songs and not saying crap in between. And these people want to know, what's the song about? Why should I care about you? You know what I mean? The market is so oversaturated. Why should I give a shit? So you need to tell these people why they should care about you, and why they should care about this song, and why it's not just another rap record, and why it's not just another song that they're going to forget about by the time they get home tonight.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it really connecting with them too, because like,
yeah,
you know, like I don't want people to listen and get the wrong like the wrong message as like, why should you care about this? Oh, because I'm going to be famous. More of just like,
no,
you should care about this because you could probably relate to this if you've been through like a similar situation.
Yeah,
for example, a heartbreak song, or
exactly,
even if it's a party song, you know what I
yes,
mean? Like everybody,
what does this mean to you?
Yeah, right.
And anybody can relate to any song. I'm a firm believer in that. My first single was so personal and so about my pain and very specific things that I had gone through as a teenager, and people love it. And I had no idea why at the time. Now as an adult, I'm like, I get it. It has this appeal that not many other songs actually portray. But I think you could find that in any song. Anybody can relate to any song. You just have to tell them what it means to you, and then they find themselves in it. People are so about themselves, they'll figure it out. You know what I mean? But also tell them what why it means anything to you.
Yeah.
Why did you make it, you know?
Yeah, of course. And just for context, that single you're talking about is Flowers?
Flower, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, that was my first single. And that I had no concept of how to write a song structurally, but I think that really worked for me because I just wrote exactly how I was feeling at the time, let everything out on paper, met my producer, Brandon, and he was like, don't change a thing. You know? It was cool.
We'll get into Brandon
Yes.
after.
Ooh, sorry.
Right after. I feel like we should kind of you mentioned it before, and I'll kind of set the scene, right?
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
set the scene for you. So you're 19 years old.
Yes, about.
You get accepted into going into the show The Four.
Yes. I think it could be wrong, but about that.
Yeah,
about
around that age.
Yeah.
That age. Your parents were pretty supportive about the move and everything, and the show in classic, you know, like TV paid for your flight and everything. I believe you talked about how it was snowing out in New York. You had to take a train, right?
To Washington,
To Washington.
to get
and
to
then,
LA.
Yeah, to take a plane.
Yeah.
You get to LA. You're alone there, but you do have your cousin who lives there, or your brother?
My cousin and my brother.
Oh, okay.
Both of
All
them,
right.
yeah.
Both of them live in LA.
Yes.
The people who are on The Four it's an intimidating. It's a little bit of, well, I feel like two of the judges are pretty intimidating. The rest of the other two, somewhat.
But
So you had P Diddy,
yes,
DJ Khaled,
yeah,
Meghan Trainor, and the fourth one always forget because
Charlie something, but he ended up getting cut after my episode for a sexual harassment suit. So
rough.
we don't need to know his last name.
The show itself, like I was kind of doing like a little deep dive into the show, and everything, and you know, it's weird because I'm diehard East Coast, and I've low-key always had a beef with the West Coast, but not really like a serious beef, but I'm just like, because it just feels so disingenuous, a lot of the things, and I hate like show business in the background, and it's a lot of the reason like why like even this podcast, like I like keeping everything raw. I don't like taking anything out. If anybody said anything out of pocket on the podcast,
for sure,
like I wouldn't even take it out. I'd just address it, and I'd be like, all right, like why don't we talk about
Let's talk about that,
and
for
if,
sure.
And if worst scenario, I would have to like end the podcast and then, but you know,
leave it at that.
Yeah, just leave it at that. But you know, like if I didn't want to go too crazy into like your whole experience, because I actually think the other guy who did a podcast with you, it's called something different now. He changed the branding of his podcast.
Oh, no way.
But I think it was called Table Lunch Table. I'll put up the link, whatever, in the bio. You guys could look at it because he did an amazing job talking to you about it, and you've also talked about it into a lot of different places,
for sure.
But for the people who are doing or who are wanting to do this now, you know, I really wanted to get into like kind of specifically touch on what they made you do, how you would have prepared better if you knew what you knew now.
Yes.
And then we'll kind of like jump from there. So the first thing is like, how did they prep you for the show? So if I'm being honest, I was given zero prep. I was on the phone with a couple producers before they flew me out, basically to just do interviews and figure out if I was TV material. They asked me a lot about my family, any kind of like past trauma that they could use for my story. So weird.
Very weird.
So weird.
That producer knows more about me than probably my therapist. And
that's crazy.
That's some shit.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, you don't really know what they're doing when they're doing it. Because they're good at their job. They have that job for a reason. You're a producer for a reason. You are hired to create storylines and get information out of people without them feeling uncomfortable. I can tell you, I never felt uncomfortable until I went to LA. All the beforehand, I trusted the producer I was speaking with. They seemed super genuine. It was just this regular schmegular woman who made me feel comfortable over the phone, asked me to send a couple of videos of me speaking to the camera. I had to record a bunch of voice memos on my phone of me singing a bunch of different songs, and really thought it was going to be like my experience when auditioning for other shows like X Factor, The Voice, shows that really had it together. The one with this one in particular is it was brand new and nobody really knew what they were doing and or going for when it came to the producers and even the judges. It was very much a show about promoting the judges.
Yeah.
They kind of just made this thing because they weren't getting enough buzz. They had a new album coming out. Now that I know that, I didn't at the time.
Yeah, because, you know, I think P. Diddy owned the show, right?
Yeah.
And this is what kind of gets me upset with it, because it's basically they're using real people who have real talent.
Yes.
And just putting them into real uncomfortable situations for great TV.
For great TV.
Which
quote, unquote, it wasn't even that great.
Yeah. There was a lot of cringy moments in
too many, if you ask me.
Cringy moments
too many
in that show. And I'm not gonna hold you. Like when I watch you doing that, like some of them you looked very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable.
It was very hard for them to edit for me. I had to refilm a lot. And I didn't at the time know why until after I watched the show. And a lot of the makeup people were coming to me on the side very quietly being like, hey, the producers thought your makeup looked like shit during the shoot, so you have to refilm everything because of your makeup. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? And then another PA would come up to me that realized that, oh, I'm not a garbage human. And I just really don't know what's going on. I'm very naive. And would say something like, you looked too nice in your shoot. They need you to look mean. So they would specifically schedule shoots where like the sun was really low and I had to scrunch my eyebrows and I would look mean. And all these things I just didn't know.
I'm like I'm like such a complex filled with emotion right now. Like I'm like fuming, right? But also like I feel so bad.
I feel bad for her too. Past me.
Yeah.
She had no idea.
Cause at night, like around 19, like
I don't know.
I don't even know if I could handle any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Low key, I don't even know if I could handle it. Well, actually
right
now I would just be like piss off.
You'd be mad, like, right? And I think I just had zero clue what the actual industry was like. TV specifically when it came to music, and that nobody there actually cared about my voice. You get a vocal coach assigned to you when you get on the show. My vocal coach really cared about me. That's one thing I can say. He tried his very best to say things to me without saying things to me, because obviously his job is to keep me in check. But looking back, he would say things like, no one's forcing you to do anything, right? And looking back, I'm like, he was saying, don't sing this song. Like, tell them you don't want to sing this song. Or just get up there and sing a different song. Who's stopping you from doing that?
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who was stopping me? And I think back now to my 19-year-old self that was so close to getting up there and singing a different song and just saying, hell with it, because I'm going home anyway. And I just feel so bad for her because she was so scared and she was so naive and she was so, I'm going to get in trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this thinking of, damn, someone's going to hate me. I'm going to get escorted off the lot. Like all these random, unnecessary things that I thought would happen to me.
Yeah, something you actually haven't mentioned yet, which I felt like I was even, because I was thinking in my head too, and especially listening to your interviews, like something that has always been told to me especially like in the sound engineering industry, is like just like how the sound engineering industry and sound engineering, it's so small. Everybody knows everybody, right? So once you screw up with one person, word gets around.
Sure.
And I can't imagine like being in that situation. And if you mess up with this producer, whatever, everybody talks about like the web of LA producers and whatever. And they're like, oh, don't work with her because she might have ruined the show or anything.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like maybe like, I don't know if your naiveness to the industry at first, like might have helped in that, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because I think I said no more than the average person did. But a lot of artists that were on it also had their management with them. And somebody that was there to say, yeah, no, he's not doing that. Or, no, we're not comfortable with that as a team. Somebody to be the diva for you so that you didn't have to look like the jerk.
Yeah.
I could have really benefited from that, but I didn't know. And they weren't saying, bring your management with you. I wasn't local to LA, so I would have had to pay to fly somebody out and then have them stay with me and all these different things that really I was just learning from listening to the conversations going on around me. And it wasn't until afterwards that everybody kind of came to me and was saying, you didn't have to do that. Or one of the contestants on the show, we were watching my last episode, and she looked at me and said, nobody forced anything to come out of your mouth. Did they suggest it? Sure. But who in your brain was saying if I didn't say this, X would happen to me? You know what I mean?
That's how they manipulate. Yeah.
They really did.
That's how they do without doing. It's like, it wasn't me, it was you at the end of the day.
You did say these words. And the editing was very choppy, but people don't know that when they watch.
They don't. And it's insane. The world of editing is wild.
It's so strange.
I just got into it, like, maybe, like, honestly, I probably got decent, at least decent with it, like, this past year from editing the podcast. And even some of the promo shoots that I've done, like, even some promos for, like, the podcast.
Yeah.
I had this one where I had this guest, and we did some joke about, like, he's a professional, like, filmmaker, photographer, like, he does really high end quality stuff.
Yeah.
And I had made a joke about, like, filming feet for, like, you know, money, right?
Yeah.
So I tried to make it awkward, but he tried to make it more funny. And so, like,
no.
I was like, okay, but the joke, like, didn't really land. Sorry, dude. No. So the joke didn't really land, and, you know, I was like, I'm just gonna roll with it. Like, let me see what I could do in post, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of always the joke about editing. Was always like, oh, we'll fix it in post. Yeah, we'll fix it in post,
Yeah.
right? And then when you look back at that video, like, you tell, and it's like very like Eric Andre type awkward, right?
Yes.
Where it's just like, and then, like, I just upped a lot of the sounds so you could hear a lot of deep breathing, and you could hear my voice and stuff. And then it was very short. It was a minute video, and I ended up cutting it into, like, maybe like 20 seconds, you know?
Oh my
gosh. And that's like
gosh.
just the magic of editing.
The
man.
magic
Yeah.
of editing.
Yeah, the
You
magic
can
of
make
editing.
anything look like anything. And they would just post a clip of me walking into the sunset, and in the background, edit my voice clips into being like, I'm better than her. You really think that was me?
Yeah, no, because
Jesus.
you were really sweet during the show, and especially hearing
Thank
from
you.
all the other videos that you did, and especially when you ended up getting eliminated.
Yes.
And you had versed I forget her name, the last girl who you
Evie.
versed. Evie, right?
Yeah.
Like, you were saying that during the whole time you were just there in your seat, like, clapping, like, you know,
Standing
cheering
for
her on.
her. Yeah. I was really enthusiastic about her because she was incredible.
She was incredible.
And that was the whole thing. She came onto that show knowing exactly what it was. Her management set it up perfectly. She knew exactly what she was there to be doing. She had been in the scene for so long. She was set up for success. And they have so many people in LA that would have just done the same thing. Why did you need to go for all of these small town people who didn't know what kind of people, if you really weren't there to showcase their talent, you know what I mean? There were so many people in LA that are so talented and ready for shows like that. That show could have been incredible had they just picked people like Evie, who knew what they were there to do. The show was very honest with them. This is what it's about. This is what you're going to do. You can pick whatever songs you want. Why not? You know what I mean? Instead of just having really crappy songs picked for people who don't know what they're doing, you're writing the show as it's happening. It just was so unorganized.
Yeah.
Just a big disappointment.
A question that I have, and especially for the listeners, because I feel like when you make shows like this, a lot of the people think, oh, like, you get to meet P. Diddy, you get to meet DJ Khaled. Oh my God, you met Meghan Trainor. Like, you're it. You probably gave them your mixtape, and then now you're famous, and now this is it. This is it. You've reached. You made it. You made it. You peaked. You peaked. How much did you actually get to interact with the three judges? We'll get to P. Diddy.
Yeah.
The three judges, DJ Khaled, Meghan Trainor, and then the other one.
So the first judge I interacted with was Charlie. He actually came to the back, talked to all the contestants, and tried giving us a pep talk. We had been there for probably 12 hours by the time I auditioned, waiting in a waiting room with a bunch of other people who ended up not even getting to perform. It was really disappointing to see, actually. But he came to the back and said, everybody tonight has been so disappointing, thinking that he's giving us a pep talk. Like, you guys need to come out there, you need to bring it, you need to blah, 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 blah. Whatever. And it was a horrible, horrible talk. But my brother and my cousin happened to be back there with me. And my cousin's wife, Natalie, who also knew one of the producers, so she was giving us a bunch of information. And Charlie came back, did that pep talk, and he was the only one that actually talked to us before we went on. I happened to pass Khaled as he was going to the bathroom. And I'm pretty sure he just dapped me up because I was with my producer. And my producer was like, oh, by the way, this is one of the contestants, yada, yada, yada. But they really don't want you having any kind of interaction with them before you perform. Even afterwards, you're really not supposed to, because it can be considered having a relationship with them that can push you forward in the competition, blah, blah, blah.
Even though Megan knew one of the contestants,
yes. So it was just confusing. Like you said, in LA, everybody knows everybody. Mm-hmm. So me being from the other complete coast, not having any experience in LA, probably worked in my favor to some degree, but really did not benefit me and my career had I known what I should have been doing, which was not trying to get my song right, not doing these commercials with them. They would have me filming these AT&T commercials because they were our sponsor till 3 a.m. before I was supposed to compete.
That's insane.
On purpose.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely insane. And yeah, because for the people who are listening, I mean, you had mentioned it, but like they had written the show originally for the girl who you had knocked out,
Javaya,
to win, I guess, or whatever.
According to a producer, right? They wanted her to win.
So I mean, and then you surprise knocked her out, right?
Unintentionally. Mm-hmm. They actually had a company come in and had, I think it was 50% of the audience actually was voting. So it wasn't, that part was not written in until later. And then the night I went up, the live audience had voted. I mean, the in-studio audience had voted for me to win. And everybody was really caught off guard because obviously the judges are wearing earpieces. They're up there trying their best to have actual opinions, but also listen to the producers in their ears.
Yeah.
And they were told to give me a shot to sing. Diddy went off script and happened to be like, I actually really like her. I actually think she's really good.
looking back at your performance,
Yeah.
were you surprised that he like felt the way he did after your performance?
So for my first performance, I think I did the best I could with the songs I was given. The night before I was supposed to perform that song, they had changed it and told me that I needed to get up there and rap, which was pretty horrible. And had I gone up there and rapped,
I feel that.
I was so taken back. My vocal coach was like, I don't know why they want you to do this, and if you can think of anything to not do this, please don't. So I sang it. Thank God.
To give you some credit though,
Yeah.
I the first time I watched it, I was a little bit confused because I was like, why is Diddy freaking out like about this? You know?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hold you. Like the third or fourth time that I watched it, the first part is immediately I was like, no, I get it now. Because
Right.
that first part, like, it grooved. It grooved. It was so different.
It
was so
vibed.
different. And I was just like, you know, once you grab someone, especially like Diddy being like back up on hip hop,
Yes.
that's kind of like the stuff I feel like where I feel like a lot of my hip hop friends would probably listen to that and
Yeah.
be like, that's sick. Like, that's so different.
Yeah.
Because you see his reaction is so genuine. He takes off his glasses, he throws it on the table. He's like, is anyone else listening to this? And everybody's like, yeah. we are. Like, stay on script, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
It was so genuine, and he and me had this moment where after I sang the first song, he was just staring into my soul, and I'm in my brain I'm going, okay, you need to stare back at him and not break character. Like, don't laugh, don't do anything. Maybe this is what he needs from me right now, to know that I'm serious about what I'm doing. I had no clue. And this second season, he ended up having the same moment with some guy, and it became a meme where they were just staring at each other for 3 minutes straight. And I knew that feeling immediately as I watched it in the second season, of him just honing in on somebody and being like, I don't know what it is, but it's you, and we're going to make this work for you right now. And I'm sure the producers talked to him afterwards, like, you can't like this person. They're not supposed to be likable. They're supposed to be annoying. They're supposed to be this small town girl from a cringy little town, and she's not supposed to be that great. So they made sure that the next time around, after I had beat Javaya, that I had zero chance of...
It was rough what they did to you that second time around.
Yeah, it was
because
really messed up.
That is... I'm not gonna hold you, and I kind of want to get into this because funny enough, I have a podcast coming out right after ours comes out, and it's with this guy called The Love Project. His name is Sledge. He's actually from San Diego.
Vibes.
And he was talking about one of his fears being to actually become successful, and because he's like really wants to do social media and dealing with the repercussions of what success brings, right? And in this case, you know, like your second performance, I mean, it wasn't crazy.
It was
you know
horrible.
What I mean? It was really tough, and I know you were dealing with the laryngitis and everything. And they forced you to go out there, and as a singer too, dude, like it's terrible. It's like trying to belt high notes when you first wake up. Like, impossible.
It just wasn't possible.
So, but it's crazy the like hate cult that came after you. And even like some to this day, I really hope you don't look at that stuff too often now, but like it's wild. It's absolutely wild. But it's the energy that show brings, because unlike a lot of other shows where I feel like they're a little bit more like, I wouldn't say like family oriented. Yes. But like they at least promote a little bit, not as much like getting to each other's throat. Like for example, American Idol. Yeah. Right now, like they're kind of like in the almost a family vibe, but there was actually this really cringy moment in American Idol recently that I feel like everybody blew over. I don't know if you've been watching American Idol at all recently.
I haven't, but
there's this really popular singer there right now. He's like 18 years old. He's from Hawaii. I think his name is Ian Tongi, something like that.
Okay.
Very beautiful voice. I think he's like a top 8 or whatever right now.
Yeah.
But he was having like a one-on-one session with like this singer or something, right?
Okay.
And then he's like, "Oh, do you have any questions? Like, do you need advice on something?" And he asked the guy. He was like, "Hey," he's like, "How do you like say goodbye to your friends that are leaving this show?" You know, and he asked it so genuinely because you could tell he was hurt, and they were showing all these videos and the behind the scenes of him hanging out with everybody and laughing and enjoying, and then being sad, being like, "Oh my God, who's gonna leave next?" You know,
Yeah.
like it looked like a high school theater family. You know,
For sure.
and like we both know how that is.
Yeah,
you know? So
absolutely.
And this guy literally looks at him, and I think it was a past contestant of like American Idol or something. He's like, "Oh, I don't know. I was just worrying about winning." And then the camera cuts. And I'm like, that was so disgusting. I am so disgusted. Because this kid, if you watch him, like, he's just the sweetest kid. And I'm like, how, like, that is so, and his reaction too was just like, "Oh, okay." Like, he didn't know what to say.
Oh my god.
He was really just putting his heart out there for this guy. And they put that on TV. Like, I'm like, how is that not?
See, that's horrible. But then you also have to take into account the editing that probably went into that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if that moment even happened that way,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's so true, is saying goodbye to people after getting close with them. Because you are in these waiting rooms with these people for 12 hours at a time, eating lunch together, practicing together, doing commercials together, radio together, and saying bye to these people or watching them get dealt a really bad card and having to just move on because you're also a contestant. And it's just really heartbreaking. I don't think many people, I mean, you have to go through so much psychology questions beforehand. Mm-hmm. You have to meet with a psychologist to make sure that you're actually able to mentally handle something like that. And I think that's the only reason it's not taken care of enough. Mm-hmm. Or the reason it's not emphasized enough is because they assume that you mentally can just handle all of it. Yeah.
So how did you deal with the aftermath? Because I know you talked a lot about how even though there was a lot of hate, which there was a lot.
Oh, yeah. The majority.
There was also a lot of people who like were making little fan pages for you and everything.
That was so sweet. It was honestly, I remember from the first episode, I went back to my hotel room, got ready for dinner, and like went to go have dinner with my brother and my cousin. And I walked into dinner and my brother was like, "Oh, congratulations on 20K. And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, what are we saying? 20K on what?" And he goes, "On Instagram, you hit 20K. I hadn't looked at my Instagram. I hadn't looked at my Facebook at the time. I was like not thinking about that at all. I was so emotionally drained just from being there. I think directly after filming, we went back to my cousin's apartment and had edibles. And
just casual. No, I'm great.
We just celebrated with a little chocolate edible, and that was it. But once the episode aired and everybody knew, and I had to keep it a secret for a really long time. Mm-hmm. You're not really allowed to tell anybody in your life other than, you know, people who won't post it online, that kind of thing. And the hate was just overwhelming. I think if it were to happen to me now, I may have been more hurt had I been more aware. But it was all of these little kids who were 12, 13, 14 at the time, and just had their phone. They had their cell phones. They had an Instagram account, and they were allowed to call me whatever they wanted. And I think that was the main reason I wasn't super affected by it, if I'm being honest. Looking back on it now, I mean, I think that's what I like so much about these interviews is my perspective on it changes so much throughout the years. Like, immediately off the show, I think I was maybe a little more hurt, a little more upset by the whole thing, but now I just am grateful for it happening because I don't think the people that know my music now would know my music without the show.
So what's your advice for people who are dealing with that type of hate on the internet?
The thing I did was focused way more on the people showing love. I don't think that there's any shame in deleting comments. I don't think there's any shame in blocking people. I don't think there's any shame in protecting your peace. I mean, my team, after the show, we found a way to block specific comments if they mentioned Javaya's name. So if somebody went to go comment her name, it literally wouldn't let them comment because it was so overflowing. And then my family was so affected because they were so defensive over me. Prepare the people in your life before you do something like this that you're going to be okay at the end of the day. You're going to get death threats. You're going to get people telling you to kill yourself. You need to know who you are before you get on a show like that so you can be understanding of those people and that they're watching a manufactured version of you. And once that clicked in my brain, I was able to say, who cares? Who cares? Like, literally, who cares? The people that now know me and are showing me love, hell yeah. I want to DM them, and I did. We would DM, there's these two girls who would DM me for advice. They were like going through high school and like, I really like this girl and I really want to tell her. And one of them, I want to come out to my parents. And it was just so cool feeling like this friend to them, that they also really loved my music and that I could create these relationships with these people who were there to show me love because they loved my music. And that is something I would have never had it come for the show. So my advice is focus on the people that are showing you love and make sure that you are mentally prepared before going viral, going on a TV show. If you are posting yourself online, you need to mentally be prepared for people to not like you. And that's the best you can do. Do your best. And go to therapy. Go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
My God, please go to therapy.
Go to therapy. Go to therapy.
I think that's a perfect way to kind of end that little segment of the four. If there's any point that anything comes up in your mind that you want to share, please don't be afraid to stop me at any point.
Absolutely.
But I did want to get into, because there was a lot of stuff about like your life during there, but I want to know what happened after you decided, because you moved to LA for a bit, no?
Yes, immediately after.
So take me there, because that's where my research of Kendall City ended. And I was just like, man, I can't find too much. So please update me. How was it moving to LA?
Yeah.
What made you want to move there? Mm-hmm. And start me off there.
So yeah, after the show, they flew me back home. I, right before I was on the show, had met my now husband. We were in a metal band together, and he had flown out to see the last episode that I aired, that I filmed, I mean. And he flew out, and it was just like, I knew I was going to marry him at that point.
Was it love at first sight?
No, not at all. We were in that band together, and I had not even looked at him. Like, he was the drummer. I was there to just sing on their record, and we ended up getting together. We both had been going through breakups, and we were in the studio recording with Shane, and I remember him saying, yeah, me and my girl broke up. She's moving out. Like, they happen to be living together. I was in a 4-year relationship with this guy I was with in high school, and that had also just ended. and he had asked me, would you want to go to like a bar or something and be my wingman? Like asking me to hook him up with other women. And I turned him down. I like looked at him and was like, absolutely not. I don't want to hang out with any of you. And I was just there to record the record with them. I wasn't interested in being friends. And it really wasn't because I didn't, it wasn't because I didn't like them as people. It was just, I was so busy trying to make it in music that I had no time for extra people. And after we had recorded the record, I was ready to leave the band. I didn't want to be in that scene anymore. I had done what I had come there to do, wasn't looking to play shows. And he had asked me out for coffee and was like, hey, I really want you to stay a part of this band. I really want to play shows with you, blah, blah, blah. We had gone to coffee to talk about the band and ended up talking for like 3 hours about anything but the band.
Okay.
And I left that interaction being like, oh, I'm going to marry him. Like, I am in love with this man. Yeah.
Was there anything that he said? Or like, was it just like, was there anything that like, what was the shifting point? I know it was like 3 hours and stuff, but is there anything specific you remember that he like said or like?
I think it was just this realization of there was this person who also wanted everything I wanted out of life, but we also had so much in common that I had never known about him before. He was so interesting. He was really well traveled. I loved his family. I just, everything about him, I was like, God, like I've just been looking for him forever. And according to him, he felt the same way leaving the conversation. And I got in the car, and I think we immediately texted each other that we needed to see each other again. And
that's so sweet.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
So sweet. And now look at y'all married.
And now we're married.
So real quick, because I know we're jumping.
Yes.
But I also kind of want to know.
Yeah.
When he proposed to you.
Yes.
I saw that.
Yeah.
It was at a show.
It was at a show. So after filming in LA, we both flew back to New York. He was working at an engineering business, and I had told him, listen, I love you, but I also am super young and need to move to LA in order to pursue what I want to pursue. My vocal coach from the show was telling me, oh, if you just lived in LA, I'd have so many gigs for you as far as background work. And that was what I wanted to do. I wasn't doing anything in New York that I wanted to do. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to do anything like that. So I told him, and he was like, okay, then we're going together. And we both quit our jobs, saved up for a couple months, and moved out to LA. Moved into this tiny 700 square foot apartment. We both found jobs, and I started designing studios for Netflix and Warner Brothers.
Okay.
So that's what I do now. That's my like little side gig, 9 to 5.
Sweet.
And then he found an engineering position in marketing, and we ended up just like creating this life out there where I had a deadline when to get out to LA that we pulled up to Studio City and didn't know that's actually where we would end up living. We stayed with his cousin for a couple weeks while we were trying to find a place. And I sang backup for Carrie Underwood and Yolanda Adams.
Wow.
That day that we pulled up to LA. I had to pull an outfit out of the back of our car that was packed with all of our things, everything we owned in this little Civic. And
of course, Civics. Civics are so reliable.
So reliable.
So reliable.
Got me across the country twice. And I pulled this all black outfit out. I had just dyed my hair blue, and I forgot that I didn't tell my vocal coach that. So I'm pulling up to this lot, and I'm like, my driver's license, I don't have blue hair. They're not going to know who I am. You have to give them your license. They're like, we don't have a Kendyle Woven on this list. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm calling my vocal coach nonstop. Like, you have to get me into the building. I'm going to be late, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, who's Kendyle Woven? I'm like, oh my God, he only knows me by Kendyle Paige. Mm-hmm. And I get into the lot real quick. He didn't even tell me who we were singing background for. So I get there. I had learned the parts in the car on the way to LA.
You're bold.
Yeah.
You're bold.
On the way to LA.
Also very talented, if it ended up working out.
It did.
Wow, okay.
And we get on stage. He just tells me it's an Elvis special. So it's a bunch of alto parts for these choir sections for an Elvis special.
An alto?
An alto, yeah.
On the way there?
On the way there. And I just...
You are actually insane.
I was so bold. I could never do it now.
That's wild.
It was crazy. And we get on stage. They put me in this choir robe. They give us the choreography. They tell us how to do it. And then Carrie Underwood comes out. And I'm like, are we singing background for Carrie Underwood? He goes, yeah, you didn't see her name on the call sheet? And then Yolanda Adams comes out. They're doing a duet together. We're filming this thing for Amazon. I still get residuals for it.
That's sick.
It was so crazy, but it felt like so the right time for me to be there. And it was just this perfect moment. But, you know, I had just released an album the month before, my first one, Keep in Mind, and was just doing as much as I could in LA as possible. And I ended up getting a crap ton of calls from New York while I was in LA. So we had been in LA for about a year and planned this show in New York at a festival. And we get there and I perform at this festival. I'm the headliner, which was like amazing. One of my favorite shows I've ever done. And afterwards, Adam just grabs the mic from the MC and I'm about to be super embarrassed. Like, I'm like, this man loves a speech. Mm-hmm. Every time we're at dinner, he loves to toast. It's my favorite thing in the world.
We have a lot in common because I obviously like to talk.
Yes, but it's just like the best thing in the world. I had never met a man like that like you go to a dinner on a random Tuesday and he's like, all right, we got to toast. Like, what are we toasting to tonight? I just think that's so cute. And he grabs the mic from the MC and I'm so embarrassed. What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop. What are you doing? And he goes, just stop. Just give me a second. And I was wondering why all my family was coming to this show. My family's super supportive, but just random family members were at the show. And Adam had asked my dad for his blessing. Mm-hmm. And my dad kind of called a bunch of family members, hey, you need to come to the show, without really telling them why. And same thing on Adam's side of the family. He had a bunch of cousins coming in, and I was so confused. And after the show, he's on stage and asked me to marry him in front of a bunch of people. I completely blacked out. I just remember looking out into the audience and seeing my parents and just saying, what the fuck, like a million times. So caught off guard, so surprised, had no idea. We had talked about engagement before, but it was really magical. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love watching the video. It's really sweet.
Oh, yeah.
It's so sweet.
It's amazing. I don't know how in this day we didn't happen to have like a professional photographer on. He goes, I just thought of all the people there, somebody would have got a decent... It literally feels like we got engaged in 2003 and people were filming it on their flip phones. There's not a decent picture in the block of the engagement.
It always happens in the moments where you just need someone to do something.
Just give me perfect, a quality picture. What?
I guess that's kind of how people feel when they're filming aliens too. Like,
yes.
It's always like, a 260p like video.
Nothing, no
Sasquatch,
quality.
like no quality. And you're just like,
quality.
probably they're out there, you know?
But we'll never know
never
due
know.
to the quality of this image.
So are you still living out in LA at all? Or are you mainly here in the East Coast now?
So we lived in LA for another 3 years.
Okay.
And then COVID hit. So we were fortunate enough that we both got to keep our jobs. And LA was a really shitty place to be during that time. Not only was COVID happening, but the riots were happening.
Yes.
Black Lives Matter was like at its peak. And there was so much shit going on. We had this app on our phone called Citizen.
Yes, I have Citizen.
You have Citizen?
Yes.
And in LA, Citizen is not an app you should download if you're an anxious person.
Yes. No, for sure.
We would have every day, like, man with machete on your street. Garbage can on fire outside your apartment building. Just really anxiety-inducing shitty things. And COVID was already super anxiety-inducing for us both because we both have asthma. I didn't leave my apartment for like 3 months straight at one point.
Yeah, I noticed that your social media during that time kind of like was a little bit more relaxed than too. You know?
Oh, for sure. I was not mentally okay. I was exercising a lot because that was literally the only thing I could do in my apartment.
That I feel. Quick question though on exercise. Did you do like any like fitness programs or anything?
I bought a Peloton.
You bought a Peloton
During COVID.
Girl. I wish, bro. I wish. I'm so jealous.
I bought a freaking Peloton.
Was it? Did it work out?
Oh, they delivered it right to my door. Came into my apartment, set it up. I set it up in front of my little window in my apartment, like I was biking. I was like, I'm just gonna Peloton until this is over. Put a fan right in front of it. Just.
You know what? That's crazy because I know people who bought Pelotons. I know some people who bought Pelotons.
Yes.
I decided to go like old school.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who. Oh my God, Shanti.
Yes.
From not P90X. What am I thinking about? Insanity.
Yeah.
But I did the whole Insanity program.
Oh my
right?
God.
And like I was like really like thick. Like I was a thick boy. Like not even 2 C's. Like 4 C's. Like really
Love it.
thick. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just do Insanity. So then I just
go
woke up every
insane.
day and I just did Insanity and I dropped a lot of weight during
Yeah.
COVID. It was kind of good for that, but again, like also like the mental health thing, like I couldn't. It was very difficult.
It was so hard. I know people had it a ton worse. But during COVID, my mom actually got diagnosed with breast cancer for the second time. She's totally cool now. She's good. But at the time, we really didn't know what was going to happen and if she was going to be okay. And
they were questionable times.
It
they
was
were like
so much was up in the air.
Yeah, like at that time, because I kind of like talking about COVID just a little bit on
Me
the
too.
podcast, just because it's such a time capsule and something that I don't think if there was another COVID to happen, this would be like an actual like maybe like human ending like thing, because I feel like now with this generation they're just like, all right, like
We've been through it,
like, you know. And
we know how to manage.
Yeah, and it was just so panicky during that time where it was like, is it airborne? Is it like this? Is it that? Like people like didn't leave the house. Like, you know,
we didn't know.
Scared. I actually didn't even hug like anybody in the house at that point. Like
Absolutely.
I remember like crossing my mom and just being like, here's like a side. Like here's like a side little shoulder.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And my mom was in New York. We were in LA. We didn't want to take a plane because we don't know if it's airborne. We don't know what's going on. If I get it and I have asthma, my coworker's daughter had to get a double lung transplant at like 23.
That's insane.
So we just didn't know. You're hearing all these stories. You really don't know if you're going to be safe. And it was kind of this moment for us where we had to decide, can we do what we're doing here in LA, in New York, and fly back to LA whenever for, what we do out here? Can we condense all of the work that we do when it comes to my music into a 2-week period and fly out here once a year, just to be closer to family and the people that we love. So Adam moved out to LA for me. Mm-hmm. So he was consistently just waiting for me to be like, all right, let's go home. And I think we moved back in April of 21.
Wow.
And did a cross-country trip again. And it was honestly just time. I love LA. I love how I feel out there. I just feel so much better.
The sunsets are beautiful every single day. It's insane.
I lived 5 minutes from my office. I would get to walk to work. And
not if the Citizen app is bugging, though.
Not if the Citizen app is bugging. Oh, God. That was such a time. Mm. But it was... looking back on it, we look at it so fondly. But living out there is also very isolating if you don't have a very solid group of friends. I had people that I knew out there that we would get dinner with. My cousin, his wife, and their beautiful daughter lived out there. And I got to be with them a ton, which was so amazing. But they also had their own friend group and community out there. Finding your own as somebody who's married already or engaged at the time already, it was so hard because you're not going out to bars, you're not in the dating scene. And anybody I knew out there wasn't from LA. It was people that I had met on the show or people who were transplants. If you weren't from LA, we were probably friends. Because the people from LA, it was so hard to relate to them as somebody from New York. I don't want to talk my shit, but...
you don't have to say anything you don't want to, but I'm just
of course.
Interested. I'm interested.
It's just a different culture. I read something the other day that was saying, if you get a flat tire in LA, nobody's coming to help you. If you get a flat tire on the East Coast, somebody's there to help you. They're judging you and yelling at you the whole time, but they're there to help you.
That's true. That is very true.
They will stop and help you change your tire. Yeah. But in LA, everybody's driving past you. Unless you have something to offer them. Mm. And I hate to say it because it's such a cliche, but unless you had something to offer them, nobody in LA is there to be your friend. They're all there to make it. And I was one of them who was also there to make it, but it wouldn't have hurt to have a friend or two that was also just down to be friends.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of them. But everybody out there is there to grind and make it and get their own. And that was fun for a bit. But if I can live in New York and be next to my parents and be with my family and start my own family, we also wanted to buy a home because renting is, especially in LA, was so hard. At the end of the year, when you look at how much you spent on rent, Adam and I were just we're making more money than we ever have in our entire lives. And yet somehow feel like we're struggling.
Yeah. I get that. A lot. When I went to LA and San Francisco last year to do some podcasts out there.
Yeah.
And, even for one of my friends, he works for NVIDIA in the Silicon Valley out in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And he was telling me how much he was making. And I was like, you're
set.
You're set. And then he was like, yeah, but my rent is... it was something wild. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh. I was like, oh, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm just gonna work out here, and then when I could transfer, I'll get out,
Exactly.
Cause he's like, then I can make the same amount of money I'm making here in the East Coast, and then once I get in the East
Exactly.
Coast, like I'll be like whatever. Or he's like, I could even move somewhere that's not close to here, and then just like actually make a living. Cause even like when I was in San Francisco, there was these tiny houses that were near the Apple campus, and they were like 1.7, 2.5,
Insane.
and they could only fit one car in the driveway. And I'm like, who would pay for this?
And it's always on fire, or there's an earthquake, or a major disaster,
or the Citizen app is telling them to get out.
There's just a man on your lawn with a machete. You have to weigh that out, and some people love that and are willing to live with it and are willing to just compromise with that for the LA experience, because there's always something to do. On a Tuesday night, we'd go to drag queen bingo. Vibes.
Yeah.
I can't do that out here,
If you need a place to go to for
On a
drag
Tuesday
queen,
night.
like on a Tuesday night or even a Wednesday night, girl, there's some places in Jersey City that I could show you.
Okay, I'm here for that.
Sure. Please let me know, because I love going to those types of things.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
I'm a huge, if you can't tell, I'm a nerd for Jersey.
Oh,
I love Jersey
here
with
for
all my
it.
heart, so.
I love Jersey
even like
too.
around New York too. So
Yes.
What I'm interested though is, it's funny because I have all these friends who have left the East Coast to pursue their music careers in LA, Florida, respectfully. And I've always kind of told them, I'm like, I don't know about New York. New York's a little bit different, because I feel like if you focus in New York, that's great. If you travel there a lot, and especially if you live there, it might be easier if you could take the train. Specifically for artists in Jersey, I'm always just like, all right, there's not too many opportunities here in New Jersey as there would be in LA or Florida. So if you are going to head out, I tell them, I'm like, I respect it. For me right now, I'm trying to create something. I'm trying to start a movement for artists out here and try to make sure like the culture, when I'm older, I could leave it, in a better place than where it was.
Exactly.
How do you feel about continuing your career here in the East Coast comparative to when you were out there in LA?
Personally, I think my career has been better for it. I think that you can do music from any location. I don't think that was my perspective before I moved to LA, so I do think that maybe it's a rite of passage that everybody needs to take, like getting out of your hometown and realizing no one's going to support you like your hometown. If you had made the right choices, obviously if you were a shitty person in your hometown, that's on you, but but in LA, for me personally, and kind of like I said before, I can do everything I was doing in LA in a 2-week period if I fly out. Just condense it.
Like, give an example.
So let's say I was doing four different podcasts a week, a bunch of interviews with a couple different brands, recording, doing a music video, or just exploring the area and kind of networking, events, stuff like that. You can find a 2-week period in California and just book all of those things for that 2-week period and spread it across your year. I don't think that it's necessary to live there unless your job is background work, doing background vocals, that kind of thing. If you want to play a show in LA, fly out. They'll fly you out. If you're bringing the right audience, sure. If you want to play a bunch of shows in LA, set up a tour, a week-long tour of you playing a bunch of different house shows, this show, the Peppermint Club, whatever you want to do in that 1 week. Why do you need to be out there to play a show once every 6 months? Why do you need to live out there to do that? And that was something that was said to me by my manager before we moved out to LA. And I was like, I think I just need to experience it for myself and get that experience and learn for myself. I'm very stubborn. I need to learn for myself to actually take it seriously. And that was our experience. There was a lot of fun things to do, but when you think about, if I wrote down everything that I did in LA, I can do that in a 2-week period and just take a vacation out there. And then be here with the people I love, having the experiences that I need to create the art that I love. And to me, that's more valuable.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
You know?
Do you think that you're still able to build a lot more relationships and connections in that 1 week too? Or do you think like it's better to live in LA if you're really trying to make those type of connections in the industry?
In the time of social media and creating online communities, I don't think you need to be out there to be creating a community and connections. I think those opportunities, connections, and people will find you if you are making yourself well known on the platforms that are available to you. It is a consistent grind, but it does pay off. Any interview opportunities that I've had with the new album have come to me through social media and just being consistent. You know what I mean? It's people are creating their own communities from Ohio via Discord and Twitch and all of these other online communities, TikTok, where if you just put your energy into that from your hometown, you could have a way bigger audience than just trying to network with people in LA, when those people that you're trying to connect with in LA have already been approached by 20 plus people that night saying the same shit you're saying. You're not going to stand out. The way to stand out, do your own thing, create your own community online, be original in that way, be authentic as authentic as possible, create a community of people that relate to you for just being you. And the opportunities will find you. The right ones too, because in LA, nobody's looking out for you, and any kind of opportunity that comes your way may be well deserved, may actually be right for you and work out, but that's very rare in my experience.
I think it's time that we get to the album
Yes.
that you had just released. Congratulations,
Yes.
by the
Thank
way,
you.
on releasing it. We listened to it for the first time, the full
Yes.
version of it, the first time in this studio. Tell me about the name and how you came up with the name for the album.
Sure. So the album is called LADYBIRD, and it's very special to me. I wrote it during COVID, and the name LADYBIRD actually comes from my husband. So when we first started dating, that was his nickname for me. And I loved it. I thought it was so just unique, unused. I was like, where's this coming from? And he honestly, when we talk about it, has no idea where he got it from. I think he says, I think I just wanted to sound elegant or just intelligent. And that was the first thing that came to my brain. And I love that. I know there's a movie called LADYBIRD. There's no relation. There's nothing similar. But yeah, it meant so much to me at the time. And the album is about love. And I, for some reason, when I was writing the album, knew it was going to be called LADYBIRD before I even finished any of the songs. And kind of stayed true to that. For my previous projects, I usually love a long title. My first album is called Keep in Mind It May Be Behind You. My EP after that is called Before We Had Time, We Had Fire. And I love a title with a story, but this just felt like this next era of my life is going to be just Ladybird, just honing in on me and my womanhood and, you know, the love in my life and focusing in on that.
And so, you know, the cover of your album.
Yes. Is me
is you with the
pregnant.
pregnancy. When did you know that? I mean, like, obviously, like 9 months before, but I mean, but like, when did you know that you were going to involve your pregnancy with the album?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that you had planned for? Is it something that you had second thoughts on?
So originally when I obviously didn't know I was going to be pregnant when releasing this. The album's been in the making since 2020, and I knew it was going to be called Ladybird, but I didn't know what I want the cover to look like. I really love surrealism photography. Mm-hmm. That is something that I've always been a really big fan of and loved incorporating in my art, not only in the photography portion, but the visuals I create for my stuff. I like it to be very surreal, very artsy. So originally, I actually wanted it to be a picture of me with I wanted to get a snake, and I wanted to have my head floating over my body.
Okay.
I don't know why. I have no clue why.
It sounds very like wild in my head.
Yes, I wanted there to be a lot of greenery. I wanted it to be very surreal. But when we found out I was pregnant in September, we hadn't shot the cover yet. So I was kind of looking, I'm a planner, so I was kind of looking at the next 8 months of my life, because obviously it was going to evolve around this pregnancy, and realized, I'm going to be dropping this album during my pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And was like, okay, then I need to be pregnant on the cover. And just made that decision very, very easily. It was dope.
I think it's awesome, because I think it does play a lot in with like the love, and I feel like you know, you and your relationship, like with your husband, how everything has happened, the story between both your parents as well, and it being the first track and you naming it after them, and also the video you posted up recently of like you showing them like kind of the reaction and everything, and them kind of like in the cards being, and your dad being like, oh my god, like you're killing me.
Yes.
You know? Like it's super sweet. I don't think people realize how much effort it really goes into like doing a project like this.
Oh, for sure.
And like I think comparative to the other things, it's like it's really showing like the next chapter of your life as an artist.
Absolutely.
And it's wild because, you know, I look back at those videos of you on the floor, or even like, you know, all the other, and it's just so young. You know what I mean? So young.
Such a baby.
And you're completely different now in all the best ways.
I think so too.
Some of these songs you've been holding on for a while, though.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
I saw
yes.
a video that you had posted up on your social media, and it was you and Brendan, and it was you singing it like with him on a mic or something.
Yeah, I've got no time, I'm sure. Yes.
That even looked a little bit older too.
Yeah.
So how long are some of these songs? Like how old are some of them?
So yeah, most of them were written in 2020, and then in 2021, end of 2021, when we moved back, I started recording with Brandon like pretty much right away. I let him know that I want to make a project. This is what it's going to be called. I want it to have a shit ton of live instruments. This is who I want to mix it. And really just creating this space for... I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
Losing this space for... Actually, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And creating the next space for Ladybird and recording those songs. Brandon and I like to have a loose timeline on when we want to release something. I'd say our original timeline said that the project was probably going to come out a year before it actually did. But when you're working with multiple people and they're all being super generous with their time, you can't put a timeline on something like that. It's kind of just the art will suffer if you try and rush it. So we pretty much had a weekly session where we would record each of the vocals. We'd always record vocals first. Brandon also laid down some keys originally, but those always end up changing when he produces. And then I wanted my husband to play drums on it, and I wanted Shane to mix it. And I knew I wanted there to be as many live instruments as we possibly could get on it. And honestly, it was, I think, 6 months before the album came out that we were like, okay, maybe it's ready, and let's start a promotional project for it, and let's get it going. You know what I mean? I think the first single we released off the album, Bullseye, was released in June of 22.
Yes.
So that was kind of when we started. I knew I wanted that to be the first single that came out, because that would kind of set the tone for this new sound and what I wanted to say with this next project. And it worked out. By the time Bullseye came out, I'd say we were about halfway done with the project.
So I'm very interested because you're independent, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any help from like any type of like I guess like technically not like you're not signed, but like do you have any help from like a manager
or an investor or anything?
Investor or promoter?
Yeah, no. I've had offers, but none of them ever really felt right. We've had talks with a couple different labels, but again, none of it ever really felt right, because for the most part, they want to control your sound and all these different things, which I know a lot of people love, and maybe I would love that on a project I didn't really care that much about. If somebody was just like, hey, this is the sound, these are the songs, let's write about your experiences and have a label experience, maybe. But when I care too much about my songs, I hold this kind of standard for them that I don't think many labels can now uphold. But I'm completely self-funded, so any promotion that goes into it, any payment for anything, all the recording, all the studio time, mixing and mastering, I pay for all of it.
So what is your goal? What was your goal going into this album? Is it something more just like, I'm just going to do me and just put it out and just see what happens? Or is there any like strategic way that you look at it?
I always look at my projects strategically. I want to give them the best chance as possible before just releasing it to the world and being like, whatever happens, happens. I wouldn't say I have a goal in mind, like I want to go viral or I want this to hit a certain amount of plays or anything like that. Whenever I've set expectations like that, it never happens in the way that I want it to. And I'd rather not be disappointed and be pleasantly surprised. One of my singles that's not on this project, Craven, just recently hit, I think, 35 million plays. And that is the song that taught me to not have any expectations. When I recorded that originally with this producer group, Stiletto, I had zero expectations for this song. I was like, this is literally just fun. I love the song. I love the vibe. I felt good doing it. They're going to put it out. It's probably going to get 100 plays. And I'm still going to be thrilled to show people this song because I know it's badass. And it ended up just going viral very randomly in these other countries. Australia, London's a really big one for it. And I just was so baffled and realized that if I'm loving what I'm doing and I'm loving what I'm putting out, I don't need to have any expectations for it. If I was doing it for the plays, the art would sound completely different. And it probably wouldn't be as fun for me. But it doesn't mean that I don't go about it strategically when putting it out. I still want to show people that I care about my art. I still want to show people that there's a story behind my art. I love sharing stories about my family and about my life and about my experiences, because I think it's really, I personally have been moved by music when I can relate to the experience that the artist is having and or just relate to the song in my own personal way. And I love giving other people that feeling and seeing that realization or that connection. It serves my soul in a really amazing way. And that is the goal for me, is creating a relatable experience for people while also sharing my story. And as long as I'm doing that, I'm happy, I'm good.
So what's your advice then for artists who are in this like field, who are trying to do what you are doing, right? And for example, if someone were to ask you, what should be the number one thing I should be focusing on as an artist, what would you tell them?
The number one thing you should be focusing on is making quality art that hits home for you first, in my opinion. Other people would probably say different, but I think it depends on what serves your soul. If it's not the art that really does it for you, and it's the recognition or, you know, the crowd when you're at a live show, the seeing a specific amount of plays on a song, you know what I mean? Figure out what serves your soul and curate your art around that. If you're in it for money, this probably isn't your industry. Nobody really makes money in it.
I feel that.
You know what I mean?
No. I totally understand that. I have a few more questions for you.
Yeah, go off.
When it comes to collaborating on the album, right?
Yes.
There's some dope artists that you have collaborated with.
Yeah.
And one of the songs that hit me the most while we were here listening to the album was Fig Leaf.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I
okay.
really like that song. When I heard it, I don't know. Your friend has, what's the
Smitty.
name? Smitty. When I heard her voice and just like you two, like, I don't know, there was just an energy to that song where I was just like, because I'm here in the studio and I hear Shane mixing.
Yes.
And there's obviously a couple songs that I'm gonna listen to or whatever, but with Fig Leaf, I hadn't heard that at all.
Wow.
Right? So then when I heard it there for the first time, I was like, wow. I was like, this is really dope. So when it comes to collaborating with other artists,
Yeah.
see, the thing is, I used to make music, right? But I don't really make too much music anymore. And I think the hardest thing when I would make music, especially, I was in like a little Brockhampton boy band group or whatever.
Love me some Brockhampton.
Yeah, like, and it was maybe like 4 years ago, maybe now.
Wow.
Or no, 3 years ago. 3 years ago now.
Okay.
And I just remember collaborating was like the hardest thing too, because I remember having a vision in my head and not being able to like let go of the vision.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, collaborating in a group, I would say, is completely different than collaborating on your own album with another artist. Collaborating in a group, I've done before, and personally, I'm too, like you said, once I have a vision for something, I am not very collaborative after that, which is why I'm a solo artist, because that's just how I need to be. But when it comes to features, I'm very much open to their opinion and making sure that they also feel that this is a piece of art that represents them and their style and who they are as an artist. Smitty in particular, we were very much on the same wavelength immediately when we started working together. We went to high school together, and once she started releasing her own individual independent music, I knew I wanted to work with her, and I just love her style. I love her vibe. I love who she genuinely is as a person, and I think that that's important before collaborating with somebody, because if I don't like you as a person, odds are I'm not going to like how you approach my art. And she just handles every release of hers with so much care that I knew she would care about this song. And when we got together, I'm pretty sure it was summer of 2021, when we wrote it. I had Fig Leaf and Bullseye written, and I showed her both and said, I can picture you on both of these. Very different vibes, but I can picture you on both. Which one do you see yourself on? And sang him for her, sent her the lyrics, and I actually had her verse written. But I always give my features the option to either sing the part that I wrote for them or make your own and do your own thing. So she decided to do her own thing on Fig Leaf and absolutely killed it. Like, she sang her verse for me. I was there in the session when she recorded with Brandon, and once an artist writes on one of my songs, it's very rare that I don't like it. And it's usually not that I don't like it. It's usually that I just don't think it fits the vibe that we're going for, because when they're writing it, they're also only writing it to the piano, and then we make the production around the vocal. So a lot of people aren't used to writing like that. They're usually used to writing to a beat. So hers was just very effortless. She knew exactly what she was doing and absolutely killed it.
Other question that I feel like a lot of the artists who are listening right now, I have a hard time with artists who, I think it's very much in like, you understand because you've been in the industry. A lot of people on the East Coast who don't have exposure to the industries and who don't get exposure to like A&Rs don't understand how much it actually costs to make this happen. To make a session happen, record, or if you need to re-record things.
Yeah.
You don't have to say specific numbers, but how much should a person be like investing, or like, you know, like what are some like etiquettes that comes to like payment and just like dealing with things like this? Like, what is too expensive? What is cheap?
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate to find people that believe in my art and are willing to do it for a very discounted price. Brandon and I have always had an arrangement where he and I split the profit 50-50. That's not going to be the case with every producer duo. But that was something that we decided on very early on, because I'm writing the music, creating the melody, recording the vocal. He's creating the production. And we felt that that was a good split. So I do not pay him out of pocket. Any money that our music makes together, we both split. For everybody else that works on my projects, it's always a negotiated price based off of our relationship. I personally choose to work with people that I'm friends with and respect their art. Excuse me. But I think in the case of if you don't have a bunch of friends in the industry and you have to pay for your art, make sure first that it's somebody that actually likes your music, or they're going to charge you an arm and a leg for something that you're probably not going to like. Don't always go for this big shot producer or big shot mix mastering engineer simply because they worked on your favorite artist's project and, you know, you really want to work with them. Odds are they don't want to work with you and they're going to charge you a shit ton. I would find somebody whose art you 1,000% respect, love, and isn't going crazy in the industry. They're not working on Taylor Swift and Dua Lipa's record. Find somebody who's independent, starting their own business, who's really good at their craft, and you really enjoy their work. Create a relationship with them. Tell them that you love their art, promote their art, create a relationship. It takes time to do these things. And then show them your art, see if they like it, and if it's something that they also enjoy, they're going to want to work with you. They're going to want to create with you. And yes, you are still going to have to compensate them for their time, but I can promise you it's not going to be as much as it would be for somebody who does not give a single crap about your art. And that's how you create relationships and a piece of art that you can actually believe in and promote and be proud of, while also creating it with people that you eventually become friends with and have way more fun creating than this professional, cold environment. Art's not supposed to be like that, in my opinion.
I think very much agreed. And I think everything that you said is something that if you're listening to this, you definitely need to rewind and listen to it again, because it takes a lot of time in this industry. And also, like, again, I like the fact that you said, like, you know, find someone who's maybe not like crazy, like, you know, on the top or working with your favorite artist, because there's so much talent out here
Yes.
that people really don't know. And
Yes.
someone who's really willing to invest in your art and like believe in it is like just a whole other level of like working with somebody.
Exactly.
And actually, like, you know, I also feel like you might get more say into like how everything comes out in the end as well.
Exactly. It's more collaborative.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times, like, you know, what people don't know in the industry sometimes is like you'll hand off your record to a mastering engineer. They might not have the time to work on it.
No.
And then they'll hand it off to somebody else and be like, I'm so sorry. You know, and then at the end of the day, you don't even get what you want. And now you're just giving someone else who might not even, like, you know, they might just doing it to, you know, get their credits up or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Or just to get some cash in their pocket because you don't know better.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, okay, this person wants $2,000 to mix my record, but it sounds like crap.
Mm-hmm. So what was the hardest part of the album making process, and what was your favorite part about making it?
I think my favorite part is always writing it. I have a lot of fun writing. I think it's my favorite process because I like putting myself in different environments and making different songs. Hence why every record on the project is so different. I liked putting myself in different scenarios. And in COVID, that was like very hard to do. Like I couldn't go to a party and then come back and write. But I would write a song. Sometimes I would listen to a specific artist that I was really into at the time. I would listen to their whole record, and probably like drink some wine.
Mm-hmm. Some inspiration.
Some
liquid inspiration.
Yes. I find, and I'm not encouraging heavy drinking at all,
mm-hmm.
but I loved like drinking a different kind of alcohol. Like, I'm pretty sure, what song was it? I think it may have been Bullseye or John and Yvette. I drank an entire 6-pack of, what are they called? Angry Orchards.
Oh, okay.
Rosé. And I had just discovered that flavor in LA and watched one of my favorite shows that had me so emo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hysterical crying in my small living room in LA. And immediately I'm like, okay, I need to write a song. I need to get this out of me. I need to write something emotional and like, and end up writing something that feels very just raw and pure and amazing. And then you find songs like Got No Time or Mine Tonight, which are very intentionally like party songs. And just that whole process is so much fun to me. I enjoy writing a lot, and I do a lot of it, especially just after experiencing anything. I love recording a voice memo on my phone after I have an interaction or a conversation or an experience, and just singing a melody that I feel in that moment. Usually I don't use the words. It's just a melody that I'm feeling. It happened to me a lot at my job as well. My job in LA had me pissed off a lot, and I would have maybe a little argument with my boss and run to my car and just sing some like angry lyrics, but really great melodies into my voicemail on my phone, and then feel immediately better and walk back inside. So that's always fun. I think the hardest thing about recording the album and making it, or maybe my least favorite part, is the marketing and the social media aspect of it.
Okay.
I know it's part of it, and I don't never want to partake in social media, but it is such a scheduled, calculated thing.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, dude.
And you just never know how people are going to receive it.
Yeah, dude. It's hard. It's super hard. I feel you to the core with that.
Yeah.
Actually, right now with the pod, like I'm a little bit of a lull, like these past like 2 weeks.
I feel you.
At one point, like I was posting 3 times a day. And like, just on a content grind.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And recently, I just been doing a lot of these hip hop shows and now like, recording and stuff.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the point where I feel like I need to maybe hire out on Fiverr or something for someone to post for me, because now it's getting to the point where I have so much content.
Yeah.
And I used to social media manage earlier last year.
Okay.
And so I just learned everything about the algorithms and when it's a good time to post and when it's not, how to use hashtags, how to get into how to make the algorithm work for you,
Yes.
how the algorithm's difference between YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and then TikTok. And then Facebook has their brand new Facebook, whatever, TikTok, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
And it's so much. And also, it's like sometimes you put so much work into something, and the mental aspect of when something doesn't hit, when you put so much work into it,
exactly,
is so infuriating and exhausting. And it's not easy to just keep making,
especially after, like you said, you put so much time into editing and thinking of an idea, and then it's not well received, and you're like, oh my God. Word for the audience out there. If you have friends that make art, like it, share it, comment, post it on your story. It's free. It is free support.
It's free.
Your friends will be so grateful for it. Even if you don't get a thank you message every time, and I really try to do that with my friends, I try and let them know how important and special that is that they take the time to share my things. It's so important and so key that, especially when you're on the come up, that you have these people that are just robot, not even thinking about it, commenting, liking, sharing your things. And as much as they may feel like it's not a genuine thing, if you support your friend's art, just do it. We hate the algorithm. We hate having to post all the time. We wish we could just be making art all the time. But this is now a part of it, and you could be helping the come up just by simply doing these very free things. Pre-saving a song before it comes out, like just help your friends in that very small way, because I don't think people realize that they're helping when they do it. I think a lot of people actually think that it doesn't matter when they do it.
Yeah.
It matters. And your friends, even if they don't completely tell you face to face, it means so much to them when you do it. So just don't even think about it and just do it. Because if you're somebody that doesn't make art and has social media for fun, shit. That's great. That is so awesome. Like, I wish my social media could be pictures of my dog.
Yeah.
So just support your art friends and share their things. Even if you feel like you're doing an overabundance of it, we need to post, like you said, 3 times a day in order for the algorithm to even show 5% of our followers our things. So it's important to just share and be as supportive as you possibly can. Doing stuff for free. We're not asking for your money.
Yeah. This is very true.
You know?
Kendyle, we're coming pretty close to the end of the podcast.
Love it.
I have two more questions for you.
Go off, yeah.
One last one about your album.
Yes.
What is your favorite song on your album and why?
So I go through like phases where I come back to and like relate to these songs again.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm like hardcore relating to Cynical. It's my favorite on the album, probably because when I wrote it, I didn't know this, but listening back to it now and having time to think about it, it's about grieving the lives that we didn't get to live. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But, you know, when, like, currently I'm married and having my first kid, I will probably not in this lifetime get to be a single woman living in Europe and having this, like, free life that maybe an 18-year-old me dreamed of. And that's okay. But I'm also allowed to be a little sad about maybe never having been able to live that life. Mm-hmm. And I think we all have an example of that where we're like, okay, I'm never going to be couch surfing in whatever, doing this, and this. And that's okay. We're allowed to feel sad about those lives that we don't get to live. And also be excited for the life that we're currently living and excited for this future life that we have created for ourselves. And about the future that we don't know about yet, but we can pretty much say for certain, I'm not going to be this single woman living in Paris who's kid-free and eating croissants.
Yeah. It sounds like a good life.
So that's what Cynical is meaning to me right now, and I'm just relating to it because having your first kid is so permanent and exciting and new and amazing and fresh, but also you now have this extension of your entire self that you want to protect and care for and will always be worried about. And Cynical is just about this, like, I mean, the first line is, I'm feeling sad for no reason. And I think that's it. It's just, you can feel a little melancholy and experience all these feelings without a direct reason. And also be really excited for your future and maybe a little angry at the same time. And just, you can experience all the things without it feeling so permanent and like I'm in this consistent state of angry all the time. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of like saying what I feel, experiencing as much as I possibly can, saying how I feel out loud, but then also just moving on. And that's what it means to me at the moment. It'll probably change.
I'm glad. I hope we get another opportunity to just talk about it too. Cause
me too.
I love how, you know, I've never had the experience to write an album, but I always love and I always connect so deeply with like artists when they talk about their music. Even like seeing your reaction when you were sitting here and talking about your music, like it's really dope to see. And the journey you have been on from like, you know, your first single to like now, it's absolutely beautiful to look at. My last question for you, which is not really a question, it's more of I guess like a statement, and then you say something. I don't know exactly how to put it, but in this case, I love to look at these podcasts not only as like a way for us to like, I don't even think about them as like interviews. I kind of don't even think about them as podcasts, to be honest. I kind of just think about it as like
conversation.
If we were talking, regardless if any of this was here, we would be having this conversation because I like asking these questions and like getting to know them.
I love that.
I love to also just think about these as like time capsules, and that this will be on the internet most likely forever. And I can't think of a better opportunity for you to tell your future kid something into the camera.
Okay.
Maybe a piece of advice, or maybe just like how you're feeling right now about the pregnancy, and if you're excited, if you're not excited, I don't know. Just as honest, just for your kid. So in the future, when they're looking back at how dope their mom is and how their journey was, where they are right now.
That's so fun.
The floor is yours.
Okay. I'm a little shy. Okay. Hello to my future kid. I hope, everybody gets trauma from their parents, but I hope I do you very well. I hope that you feel like you were super loved and super cared for, and that I really gave a shit, because I really do give a shit about you. And I hope that whatever your goals are in your life, I do everything I possibly can to help you get there and support your dreams. And, I hope we watch a lot of movies together and eat a lot of ice cream, because that's what I'm thinking about right now. But I just think that, like, you're probably one of the luckiest kids on this planet, because you are so loved by not only me and your dad, but by a very large group of family on both sides that will just love you until the end of the earth. And I just can't wait to meet you. And I hope we're looking back on this interview one day as some fun, silly thing that I did when I was young. And I hope you're proud to be my kid. And that's all. Thanks. Oh, no.
Kendyle, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you,
You
get
as
to know
well.
you more. I hope to see you again at some point
Same.
soon. Please let the people know where they can find you, your social media, any shout outs that you have. Now is the time to do it.
You can find me anywhere at Kendyle Paige. That's KENDYLE PAIGE. Literally anywhere. I'd like to just say thank you to anybody that was a part of this new album, and thank you to this podcast and you.
Thank you.
Just seriously, I'm just so happy to be here, and I'm so glad that you had me, and I'm really grateful. Thank you for doing this.
Of course, anytime. And guys, y'all already know the business. Ayoo Chill Podcast on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you find your podcast, we are there. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what y'all think. Did you like it? Did you hate it? All press is good press. Low key, not really. But anyway, we love you so much. Thank you so much. And we'll catch you on the next one. One thing left to do. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you so much, dude. That was
Thank
great.
you. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much.